Hi there and welcome to another application video here for 5-star finishes. We're looking today at a beautiful project here in Coquitlam, British Columbia, about a 20 foot high by about 20 feet wide. I'm not too sure, but quite a large fireplace. Very difficult access as well. We did have to build quite a high scaffold tower, as you can see there. Kevin is in frame just starting to apply the quartz primer. They have a marble surround that's going on at the lower part there, so that's why you see that masked off. I also thought we'd show some of the photos and the videos at the start so you can kind of see what the end result is and then see how we achieve that. You can see here again with most of our products, if not all, we always recommend to use the base coat flexible trowels that we offer, the 3mm flexible steel. This is a really nice color. These are kind of a new trend now. Designers are moving towards the pastels. And the way that you achieve a pastel color is through applying about 5 to 8% of titanium dioxide into the product first, and then using just small amounts of the tint to achieve these beautiful kind of taupes and tan different colors. The Grassello Di Calce Series is our most opulent and most beautiful series of plaster. I worked quite hard and for quite a while to find the right and appropriate marble powder that is about 2 microns thick in diameter, and the product is different from our other Venetian plasters as well, so it's based on a CL90 pure calcium rich lime. Has a little less body and workability compared to using a dolomitic lime, but the CL90 does a great job of achieving beautiful finishes, and is, a lot of people think that CL90 is also the best lime, so it just depends. But the combination of the pure calcium lime and the ultra fine marble powder, and then this has an 80 mesh marble grain in it as well, of a very high purity of white. And you can see the product goes on very easily, very smooth. You're trying to, reduce your amount of lines and ridges and things like that. But lime in general is very easy to apply and moves across the wall quite nicely, so you're just trying to put it on a grain size. You're not trying to skim it too tight, and you're not kind of leaving too much excess. The reason that we use the quartz primer is because first it binds the plaster permanently to the wall as opposed to just a latex primer, and secondly we use a special 80 mesh marble in the primer too, and it allows for very easy and quick uptake of the plaster, and it also just sets to that specific kind of thickness. If the grains are smaller, it's going to set into that 80 mesh quartz primer and create a really nice easy layer for you. You can see here how quick and easy it is to apply the product. We like to use those EIFS fiberglass hawks. They're really easy to clean, and the plaster will always come off of them, especially if you use an abrasive to kind of scrub it off. If you use the metal hawks, you just end up always having to replace them because the lime and the cements just permanently kind of bind to the steel. We're making nice, small, easy movements here. I don't like to apply too much plaster at once. We always kind of edge around first. I use the trowel as well to go around the exterior lines. I usually use just the face of the trowel, which you'll see, kind of the nose. And I think at some points you'll see us use that technique. There, that particular technique there is really good for just cleaning up the bottom lines there and any lines around all of the different edges. The Grassello plaster, as you'll see later, because of the marble powder and the calcium lime, it polishes up just really easily. If you want more of a matte plaster, definitely look more towards like the Marmorino Matte or the Intonacino series or the Concrete Look Fine or Medium, or even the Micro Cement series as well. The Grassello series is really for people that want the most prestigious finish and like that traditional polished marble look. Any of the products, no matter how thick they are, whether you go to the coarse or the extra coarse, it's always gonna, create a really nice, beautiful shine. I'm letting the videos run for quite a while. I'm not interested in editing these videos too much because the whole point of these videos is for you guys to be able to sit and really watch real world applications, which a lot of people don't do, and see how these projects are really done. Every step is videotaped in real time, and there's no, cheating and, editing and weird things like that. You can see exactly how the plaster is used, how it's applied, and everything's here, is out in the open. And I highly recommend watching the videos and really studying the trowel movements and exactly how we're doing things. And, you can, if you're new to this as well, you can see the type of scaffold that we're working with, see the type of scaffold setups, how we're masking things off, how we work together as a team as well. All of these different things come into play. This particular project was very challenging, actually, not just because of the height, but the scaffold to get up to that height is wider than like a baker scaffold. You can get a baker scaffold tower which only goes up to about 17 feet, but we need to get up higher. Unfortunately, the way they designed this, the nooks there between the wall and the windows and the fireplace were so tight that it was very hard to get the scaffolds in and, reach over in some particular cases. This side was okay, but the other side was very challenging. There wasn't the easiest access, and sometimes you have to kind of work on the outside of the scaffold and, hang over the edge and try to trowel things and stuff like that. Here you see as well, we always use our fingers and work the plaster into all of the internals. We also use the same technique for any externals and rub the plaster over the corner beads and build that up in, succession over the different coats. Again, like always, we always use the 6-inch to kind of edge things out if we can, as it's a little bit more technical and you can get in there. It's best to use the technique Kevin is here, just pulling it out rather than trying to drag the edge and turning it the other way, because you can kind of dig into the plaster on the other side if it isn't fully dry yet. 6 inches should be flexible as well. I buy mine just at Sherwin-Williams. I don't use like professional inox 6 inches and stuff like that. I use the Italian, Provon tools for all of the other sizes, but I do actually really like the regular flexible 6 inches, the carbon steel that you can get from Sherwin-Williams, and they're available, I think, probably countrywide. Here you can see he's struggling to get his, I think I actually grabbed the trowel here and did that for him because he couldn't reach it, and I was kind of on the outside there. But yeah, the setups for this were definitely challenging at times to reach everything that we needed to. You can see though, he's not putting much effort in. The calcium rich, Grassello series is really easy on the arm, and goes on with very little kind of pressure. It's much different compared to working with some of the concrete look products that, concrete can be a little bit more heavy duty and sticky, and it also is setting up quicker in the bucket on you as well. This particular product you can mix. I recommend mixing the Grassello Series anywhere between 2 to 5 days before you want to use it, as the calcium-rich lime takes longer to build more body and thicken up and really slack and become beautiful. There, we are using a special trowel now that you can get from Come, and I'm thinking of offering these soon. This is the Bianca trowel, and it's the only trowel that I've found that does not leave dark marks. The Marmarino tools, I don't like their trowels at all, and their particular trowel, the X trowel, was terrible in my opinion and didn't work. But the Come Bianca trowel is a really beautiful trowel, and we use that for this particular project. So you were watching before Kevin applying the second coat of plaster, and then here, our other installer, Raman, he is going over and slowly compressing the plaster behind him. We compress each wall about 3 different times as it goes from, 20 or 30% dry to 50% dry to about 80% dry. You can also do a final burnish the next day as well, as you'll see too. So this is, all the plaster there is dry, and we're now applying the second coat. So we're not applying with the Bianca trowel here, we're actually using a different stiffer trowel, just similar to the ones that we offer for the Pavan or the Come Katana. If you're working with a very light color, or in different circumstances, if it is kind of burning the plaster, even just putting on the wet second coat, you can switch to the Bianca trowel, or you can use a plastic trowel as well, whichever you prefer. But on the on the burnishing, you always, unless in some cases you do want to burnish with a different trowel. Sometimes if it's a darker color, you'll actually want to get a little bit more shading in color. So it always depends on many different factors, the product and the color. I always recommend to make professional samples, make many different samples for your projects. Always have them approved and know exactly what trowel you used, what tints, the different layers, the different products, and then you just recreate that sample on a large scale so you know exactly what you're doing. That's a really, really good way to not kind of make mistakes on your projects. Always make samples, write everything down, be very scientific about it and understand exactly what that particular system is that the client likes. So when they see the sample, they just see the end result, but you have to know exactly how you achieve that, and every little detail will make a difference, including the trowels as well. So there we've got our hawks. We're trying to finish this wall. This is the setup that was really difficult. We had to reach out quite far in places, and it was tough to kind of finish it up. There's the Bianca trowel. We're burnishing this wall again. You can see he used the nose there to kind of tidy up the internal. Here we're not putting too much pressure. We're just going, not even really at a 45. Just using the whole trowel at this point to slowly compress it. When it's sticky, you want to make sure that you're not putting too much pressure. Sometimes, you can catch an area and kind of tear the plaster a little bit. I found that mostly with other people's products, but our plasters, for whatever reason, seem pretty resistant to any blistering, tearing, or pulling during the burnishing phase, as long as you kind of know what you're doing. So you can be pretty confident with the product that it's going to take a heavy burnish and it's not going to kind of peel. But like anything, you want to make sure that you're slowly going over it until it doesn't feel sticky. At that point, then you can really start to put some pressure on the product. Here you can see we have multiple people applying on the wall. We're not worried about it looking too different. You know, I'm right-handed, or sorry, I'm left-handed, they're right-handed. We have different trowel movements, but if you move people around at different times, it really doesn't affect the look of the product at all. If you're doing, you know, if you're doing certain finishes and stuff, you might just want one person applying. But with the Grassello Fine, you can definitely have multiple people apply, and you're not gonna kind of see the different works of people in the wall. There we've got the external. We always go kind of lightly away and over the external there. Then we rub our hand over top of it like that. Don't put too much pressure and come over that external and break the edge. The safest is actually to do the opposite of what I was doing. I just couldn't reach. But if you can reach further out, it's better to kind of come from the external and then away from it rather than rolling over top of the external, because you can break the edges a little bit if you put too much pressure. So the whole face of the fireplace is now finished, and as you can see, Ramen is probably putting the second burnish on it. The marble powder is of such a high quality and so fine that it doesn't take much to make this shine quite a bit, as you can see, and it starts to look like a real compressed piece of marble. He's using nice, long, smooth motions. We're not, you know, doing anything kind of too quickly. We're not trying to damage the plaster. We want to make sure that we're not coming back and taking a chunk out of the plaster with the edge of the trowel if we're moving too quickly or anything like that. The plaster will take quite a while to dry, you know, at least a couple hours, so you have time to slowly work it and compress it and smooth it. That is again the Bianca trowel, so it's not leaving any dark marks on the plaster for lighter colors. You can change your grip, change your different techniques. He also has a rag. As you go over the plaster, especially if it's still a little damp, you're going to get some little dags and dry little pieces of plaster on your trowel. Those can cause some issues, so you always want to have a rag and keep that trowel edge super clean. Always kind of clean it off and rag over top of it. You can see he's putting more pressure into this. This is the second burnish. We're getting a lot of shine from the product. You can see it shining just from the compression of the trowel. There's no wax or any unusual additives that are creating that shine. It's just the pure lime and the marble powder. So it looks really, really natural and beautiful. Note when you see, like at the start of the video, there's no wax applied to this. The only thing that we did was hand burnish it, and you'll see in a little bit we do a coat of penetrating sealer and then buff the walls mechanically with a wool buffer, and we'll discuss that in a little bit. So all this shine that you're seeing here is hand done. It's all just from the trowel, and it's just from the compression and polishing of that beautiful marble powder in the Grassello product. It looks patchy and dark and light in spots, but you can see the shine that we have there, and then as it dries, it's gonna lighten up to its final color. So that dries overnight, and now we have the final coat of the advanced penetrating sealer that we used on this project. Again, taking our time, trying not to get too many drips, starting from the bottom, working our way up to the top, so the bottom's sealed before we get drips coming from the top. Nice long movements. We've got a long paint pull there. Someone went along the top already in the edges and cut everything in. And then, excuse me, you can see Kevin there, he's got some microfiber rags, and we always rag over everything by hand after we put the sealer on, because there will be excess on the plaster, there will be little droplets and things that can stain it. And it also leaves a bit of a residue, so while it's still wet, we like to rag over everything by hand and get rid of any excess plaster or any excess sealer. I really like applying penetrating sealer in every particular case, generally, because it just hardens the plaster more. It also seals it up. And if you want to shine, it does seal the pores enough that without the wax, even when you polish it up and buff it, it does create a significant amount of extra shine naturally without having to have that kind of wax finish. I'm not a big fan of wax finishes. I just don't really like the way that it makes the products look unnatural. I also don't like to rely on wax to make an inferior product look beautiful as well. So I like to make a product that looks shiny and natural and beautiful on its own without any type of wax required. Not that wax doesn't make plasters look really nice. It's just a personal thing. I don't tend to use wax very often. I lean more towards keeping the product looking totally natural, put a penetrating sealer, and then polish it up if you want after the fact. And you'll see in all our videos, we tend to use that as kind of a standard technique. We're ragging off all the excess as I was discussing before with microfiber rags, and now here we go with the Makita cut polisher. I just purchased some battery powered ones and kind of moved away from these. I found, especially for being up high, this particular model is a little heavy, and then you also have the cord to deal with, so now we have some battery powered ones. Again, we're just using the wool bonnet. I don't recommend any of the other foam cut polishing pads as they're a bit too sticky and they don't work properly. The wool is perfect. It adds a lot of shine and polish, but it will freely kind of spin over top of the plaster without being too aggressive and sticky. Here you can't see exactly how it's working, but we've got some shots coming up where you can see the product literally polishing before your eyes, and you can see it's more matte, and then all of a sudden it's extremely shiny. We don't need to do too much polishing. It's not like we're sitting there for hours. We probably polish the entire fireplace in about 2 hours, I would say. So you're not spending an enormous amount of time doing it. It looks like it's moving slowly in the video, but it's actually going about, 2,000, 1,800 RPM. So it's spinning a lot. So you only need to stay on one spot for a couple seconds and it's enough to polish it up a lot. If you wanted an extreme shine from this particular project, you could go over and repolish it numerous times and really get it shiny, or you could even go with a wax finish after the sealer as well and then polish it even more. Putting a penetrating sealer first and then waxing is always a nice way to do things. I like that rather than just going straight to the wax. Plus you're not going to get so much wax absorbing into the product, so you'll keep more of a natural look too. Here you can see the one side, like the left side is polished and the right side is unpolished, and there's quite a difference there. This you can see in the right side, it's very matte. It's got more of a film as well on it from the penetrating sealer, and all of the rest there is nicely polished. And you'll see how the polish is actually coming right from just mechanically rubbing the surface here of the marble as it starts to heat up, compress, and create this beautiful natural shine. Again, there's no wax being used here at all. As he goes over this area, you'll see it goes from matte to shiny. So here, so that was matte, and you see how that shine's coming? It's beautiful. Again, this is all happening in real time. We're not spending a lot on the polishing, and I hope that